AI is no longer the nice to have.
We're living in an exponential world.
That content creation is going to be IP protection.
I'm grateful.
This is the Pete Sacco Podcast, where technology meets consciousness. I'm Pete Sacco, entrepreneur, technologist, and modern-day mystic. Each week, we explore insights that expand our minds, challenge norms, and move us towards a more intelligent, intentional future. Each episode, we explore the edge of what's possible in business, in tech, and in human potential. Let's dive in. Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Pete Sacco Podcast, the Future Table Edition. And I thought it only fitting, since I was at the Giants-Eagles game last night, that I wore my Giant jersey, because my guest today is Nick Lord, co-founder and CEO of NOCAP Sports. In full disclosure, I'm an investor in the company. And so, Nick, welcome to the show. I hope you don't mind me wearing the jersey, but it has been a decade, boy, before we've had a game like that last night. So sorry to spring that one on you at our talk here today.
Oh, good, man. I appreciate you having me. It's been a long time coming. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'll let it fly today.
So let's kick into it. I think what the listeners would be excited about is, when it's co-founders, especially a young guy like yourself, they want to hear the origin story. They want to hear the founding spark and the vision that set, you on the path to NOCAP Sports. So why don't you give us some sense of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started the business back in 2020, about six to 8 months before the NIL rule change happened. So got a little bit ahead of the curve there. Co-founded it with two individuals, one named Stan, the other named Casey. One had spent majority of his career in technology startups in the Silicon Valley area, and then the other spent most of his career at athletic departments, conference offices. I actually sat on the legislation and governance committee for the NCAA for a bit as well. And us three came together about 3 months into me starting it. I actually started the company in college, my senior year at Gettysburg. Which was
nice.
Was also during COVID, which created an interesting mix of challenges early on in our business journey. But as soon as I started hearing rumors around NIL and college athletes being able to monetize their name, image, and likeness for the first time, I knew there was going to be a massive business opportunity. And I've always believed that athletes should get paid for the value that they create. So I saw an opportunity to build a business around that, and that was kind of how it sparked. And then we launched our business on the first day of NIL, which was July 1st, 2021. The rest is history.
Rest is history, right? And it's funny, we've often talked about it, that we live in a world today that whatever the opportunity is, it's no longer just us that has the opportunity. It's us and about 500,000 people, right? Few people actually execute on it. But in the case of NIL, there was a lot of early people jumped on this. The truth is, though, you've weathered the storm. Right. Most of the people who tried to do what you do have long since got out. Talk to me about, the early doubters and the disruptives and the pivots that you've made in order to build a viable business. And then finish that with, what's the product mix today? Like, what is actually NOCAP doing for athletes and schools?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look back at the beginning of NIL, there were pretty much no barriers to entry into this industry. So you had hundreds of companies coming into this space, trying to build products and solutions to create value in this industry. I think if you're around today as a business, you've made multiple pivots because the opportunity has changed over the last few years. There's been a lot of changes from a regulatory standpoint. And the early days, everyone was really kind of sitting on the sidelines. Like, we started our business on the brand side, and a lot of brands were in this wait and see phase. Like, is this actually going to create value and ROI for us? So it was a lot of kind of weathering that storm, having those conversations, and just continuing to follow up over time to really unlock dollars in this space. So I think part of the reason why we're around today is because we pivoted the business multiple times. We started as a compliance technology platform. We began building out a two-way marketplace, which there's still a couple of two-way marketplaces out there today, but really where we believe the opportunity in this space is And what we learned over the last few years is that the stakeholders within college sports are super interconnected when you look at the athletes, the universities, and the brands. So that we believe that the companies at the end of the day that are going to win are going to build ecosystems around those three main stakeholders and build the infrastructure to support those three main stakeholders. So the way that we're building our business today is a multi-vertical ecosystem with multiple business units focused on solving key problems in the college sports and NIL space. So we have our brand business, which has been around since day one, pretty much. And what we're doing there is helping brands leverage athletes as influencers and generate ROI. So we're working with companies like Walmart and LinkedIn and helping deploy their marketing dollars effectively into college sports and NIL, and leveraging technology a lot to scale those activations. We have a network of about 50,000 athletes across the US, and we could execute a campaign for a brand in 40 different markets if we really wanted to, with 1,000 different athletes. So we've created scale that way.
And to that point, I was surprised when we met each other. That was about when we met, when we were primarily doing that business, and I was trying to launch HiCon with Camille and Vamsi and the team. And what I was surprised at is how sophisticated the retailers were, in that they understood their market. That it wasn't just LeBron James selling nationally. That the real opportunity for a company like Nike was to sell in their local communities or regionally by leveraging top athletes at top schools.
Yeah, it's basically localized influence at scale is kind of the way we talk about it. Brands have a unique opportunity with NIL to hyper target the locations where they're doing business. So we do a lot of work with retail businesses. We do a lot of work with like franchise businesses, for example, who have locations in college towns and are able to leverage athletes as a way to drive traffic and drive results for their business through that model. So yeah, really interesting opportunity there. And as we built out our brand business over the last 4 or 5 years, we built these relationships with universities as well. And universities have started to come to us over and over again over the last couple of years and saying, how do we solve the biggest problem that we face right now, which is donor fatigue? We are going to the same donors over and over and over again, asking them for money to help us fund NIL and other projects. We need more sustainable revenue streams to actually build what we're doing. And we're moving into this area where universities are starting to actually become more aggressive and think outside the box and how they're generating revenue, and even considering things like private capital as well. So, we knew we had to capitalize on that. We launched our second business unit about 8 months ago, focused entirely on helping universities unlock scalable, sustainable revenue streams via their alumni base, specifically with the businesses that they own. So we built a first of its kind B2B services model where we can plug B2B companies into alumni-owned businesses and create recurring revenue streams back to the university. Sometimes 5, 6, 7-figure deals that could really replace donors. And it's something they could rely on every single year to fund what they're doing from an NIL standpoint, whether it's the salary cap or, they could technically use it for anything they want, whether it's a project or.
So tell me, how many schools in only the 8 months that you're doing this? So first of all, you worked on the other model, the branding for 4 years, and you became a cash positive company on its back. But talk about the explosive growth that you're experiencing in the NOCAP revenue, within the school system now, ecosystem now.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a massive problem for them right now. So universities are looking for ways to innovate really quickly. And the model that we build is very scalable, and it's basically a no-brainer for them to move forward with. So we haven't really gotten a no on this business model yet. We've been able to sign, I think, 16, 17 universities so far. We have about 75 in the pipeline, which is crazy. We don't have currently enough members on our team to take on the number of universities that we need to onboard. So we're actively working to scale up our team now and support the universities that really do need help. And the interesting thing about it, honestly, is this could work for a Power 4 university, a major school, and it could also work for mid-majors or low D1s as well. You all have significant alumni bases that own a bunch of businesses that could be contributing to the university, and they're not currently tapping into it right now. So I think there's just so much opportunity that universities have and untapped potential that they have that they could really start leveraging.
And we're going to see that, because I think next week or the week after, you and I together are going to go to my alumni, Fairleigh Dickinson University, which is not really known for football, but it's D1 in basketball. And, like to the basketball fans out there, when we beat Purdue 2 years ago, it was a big deal for the school. And the women's team is phenomenal as well. But last night I was sitting at the Giant game at the, I sit on the board of the Gildert Haas School of Computer Science and Engineering at the school. And they, and the head of business development invited me to go to that Giant Eagle games, hence the jersey. And we were talking about it in advance of the meeting. And we were talking about, that donor fatigue is a real problem within these schools. I mean, I'm a donor to the school, right? But, I used to give the schools money, then NIL came around, and now I give money to well-organized NIL collectives that are distributing the money. And so I don't think people realize that the school who used to handle that money made a little bit of money off that donation and distributed it to their will, but now they've been cut out of it, and hence the thing. What is the advantage to the alumni within their business model being able to tap into their business network to pull something out of their transaction, between, say, two alumni? What is the advantage to the alumni working this way, through your program?
Yeah, what we've tried to create with our model is a win-win-win. So the key component of everything that we do on that side is we want to go to the donor and, that owns that business and save them money. So there's a cost savings model up front initially, regardless, which makes things a lot easier. So once we're able to save that business money, and we also tell them, hey, when you adopt this model, we're also going to share a percentage of that revenue with the university, it becomes a no-brainer for them. Obviously, it's great for the university because now they don't have to go to that same donor every single year and ask him for money out of his own pocket. They're going to get that money consistently every year just by implementing this program one time. So it's a win for the business because they save money and they're also contributing to the university. Now they're not going to get bothered to come out of their own pocket. It's a win for the university because they don't have to go to that donor and ask him for money every year. It's coming out of the business. So each of those parties get a significant win on their front.
In the early trends, is there any business in particular that seems really amenable to this type of transaction that it's been an easy one for you?
Yeah, I mean, we've had a ton of success with car dealerships, actually. You look at a lot of donors across the U.S., there's always a dealership donor. There's always a dealership major fan.
Always.
There's usually multiple. And they have really unique businesses, and they usually have full control over their businesses. So they like to get creative in how they operate. So if we're able to go to a dealership and say, hey, we're able to save you X dollars in revenue. Like 2 weeks ago, we just did a deal for one of our Power 4 schools that saved the dealership $700,000 a year. And he's also contributing through our program 6 figures. So, an opportunity like that to take to a dealership is pretty significant. It's a pretty easy switch too. So we've had the most success on that front. That's usually some of our lowest hanging fruit when we start working with a university.
Well, that's awesome. So everybody out there who's involved in a university at that, if you have, any interest in this, Nick, give us where do people find you? How do they find NOCAP Sports?
NOCAPsports.io is our website. You can reach out to
Easy enough. We'll put that in the show notes below.
Awesome. And then I'm on LinkedIn, active, probably too active on LinkedIn. So
no such thing today, my friend, right? It's a whole separate discussion, but the whole world's going to become innovators and creators and innovators because AI is going to take all the menial jobs. But that's a different episode of the Pete Sacco Podcast. Let's change gears a little bit and let's talk about the future of NIL, because I know NIL really chaffs a lot of people in the space, and let's put it in the context of athlete empowerment. How do you see NIL reshaping the balance of power between athletes, schools, and even traditional sports agencies?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think NIL creates a level playing field. I think athletes for the longest time have created so much value for all of the stakeholders within college sports, but never have really been able to monetize that. So I think NIL, just from a simple standpoint, creates that opportunity. Now they're able to monetize what they've always should have been able to monetize, and are able to do big things with that opportunity that's in front of them. I think we're moving towards a kind of new frontier where we look at the beginning of NIL and athletes were very focused on kind of one-off deals early on, and I think athletes are actually starting to build businesses around their brand and who they are now, and get more creative in terms of how they build something that's going to last beyond their college careers. You're only in college for a short period of time. Most people aren't going pro. So how do you build something while you're on that stage in college that's going to last, far beyond your playing days?
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely the true. I was amazed that when we were working with Hycon and I started talking to high school athletes, the amount of high school athletes that already had agents. I mean, when I talked to the top 200 athletes in New Jersey, they all had agents already. I wasn't even talking to the athlete a lot of the time. I was talking to their business manager, their agent, their wealth manager. I mean, these kids are cutting, big deals. So, let's talk about from players to platforms, because you just mentioned it. As athletes increasingly become media brands and startups unto themselves, what do you believe will be the next evolution of NIL? And, where do you think NIL is going to go in the next 5 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think just to touch on the first part right there, I think we're going to see over the next 5 years, I think we're going to see venture funds and investment funds investing into athletes and creators themselves. I think you're seeing a lot of that now, where these athletes have these platforms and these communities that they can really monetize and are like scalable businesses. And I think we're going to enter a world in which these different investment funds are actually investing into people versus just companies. So I think that's kind of an interesting trend that's happening. And when it comes to, NIL, I think it's all about long-term sustainability now. Like I said, everything at the beginning of NIL was very short-term focused. I think it was a lot of one-off deals and people trying to make a quick buck. But I think right now it's all about building systems that are going to last long-term for athletes. So that's where I think a lot of the focus is going to go, is like what's going to be long-term sustainable for these different stakeholders, and specifically these athletes.
Yeah.
That are going to help them long-term.
I think I know the answer to this, but, a lot of people believe that NIL is going to evolve into digital ownership and tokenized personal brands. Do you see a world where athletes' future earnings or brand rights become fractionalized digital assets?
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. I think we're in such a unique stage right now of college sports and sports generally. I think people are trying to get really creative. And I think sports for the longest time has kind of been behind the eight ball a little bit in terms of adopting new, innovative things like what you're talking about. So, but I think it's finally catching up. And I think, athletes are going to get creative. Universities are going to get creative. Brands are going to get creative in how they think about these types of things. And I think they're going to adopt it over the next 5 to 10 years for sure.
And I think for the first time, at least in the U.S., we've got a a political tailwind rather than a headwind, right? I mean, it's being adopted and adapted from the government straight through private sector right now. And so that's a big change. And look, one of the companies also that I've been involved in was a company called Humble, that was a leader early on in the Web3 movement. But like you being early with, before even NIL was announced and getting into this space, I was building, financing Web3 deals before Web3 was a thing. And then, then we hit the headwind. But now all of a sudden what we're seeing is platforms that are going to tokenize real world assets. Specifically, I think real estate will be the first one. And we're seeing a very high adoption rate in there. So to the question is, we're moving into a world where people themselves are investable assets. How do you think ethics, empowerment, and what are the risks of investing in humans?
That's a great question. I mean, I think there's been a bunch of companies that have created businesses around investing into the future earnings of athletes. I think there's a couple of different groups that are doing that there. I think the risk comes from, it's a key man type situation where you're investing into one person and their future potential. It's very similar to what we ran into early on with brands, is investing into athletes at such a young age that what could go wrong. So there's always that situation in which, things don't pan out the way they were supposed to. Let's say an investment fund invested in an athlete that was supposed to go pro, and, they tore their ACL and it never went through. So I think the risk kind of comes there, really is the long-term things that could go wrong for that athlete. Is where the risk lies.
So, do you think NIL and ultimately with the platforms you're building in NOCAP and HICON that's fractionalizing, that's tokenizing the human, do you think those platforms will make sports more human? And what I mean by that, do we think that it's going to do a better job of connecting fans and communities and players, or is it just going to be simply transactional and financial?
Yeah, I think it will. I think it will create much more authentic connections between athletes and the people watching them. I think for the longest time it's been hard to do that, and with the new technologies and businesses and things that are coming out to today and will come out, I think there's opportunity to more authentically connect athletes with the people that are the fans and that are watching them on a daily basis. So yeah, definitely a trend that's going to continue to move that way. It's interesting kind of being in the weeds on it.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about the business aspect from the school standpoint, but let's take it from the perspective. What advice would you give, say, a 17-year-old athlete suddenly earning six figures, right? And what mental and emotional tools do they need to navigate this?
Yeah,
To succeed.
I think it's building a team. I think the issues that pro athletes have faced for the last multiple decades, when you look at data behind pro athletes, running out of money and going bankrupt and everything like that, I don't think they had the right team around them to be able to create something that lasts. So I think for young athletes, it's finding the right mentors and finding the right advisors and people that you can put in your corner that are not there to take money out of your pocket, and that are there to really help you create something that is going to help you beyond your career. Athletes need to be thinking that far ahead now when they're making that kind of money at such an early age. I think when you get a six-figure check for the first time, you want to go spend it on something interesting or send it to people or whatever it may be. I think they need to develop structures to actually start investing that money into their future, which is really, really important. So it's all about the people that you surround yourself with.
And that's a perfect segue, right? Because here at the Future Table, what I like talking about is, we live in an exponential world, right? The rate of change right now is way faster than ever before in history. And so I like thinking, what is this going to look like in the future? Because the present is already so different than it was just a few years ago. If you look 5-10 years ahead, what does the intersection of sports, technology, and personal branding look like, you think?
Yeah, I think, to go back on one of my earlier points, I think that as we move into this world where athletes are continuing to build these massive brands and presences, I think they're going to evolve how they operate. I think they're going to turn themselves into businesses. They're going to launch businesses under their brand via their community and be able to create things that are going to last beyond their career. I think we're continuing to move into that direction, and athletes will start to own more than typically just these, like, how things have operated for the last decades, which is just transactional. It's all about ownership now, and I think we're moving in a really interesting environment where athletes are able to own more, and we're hoping to that be our business model. So
I know that your goal is to do potentially a Series A raise at some point, probably in 26, and in order to do that, do you think your expansion plans extend beyond the borders of the U.S.? Do you think there's an opportunity for college athletics and the international markets or some other creator vertical?
Yeah, I think so. We've been approached a good amount regarding international expansion. Definitely not a focus for us right now. We need to capture the college sports market first and become hopefully the leader in that space. But thinking beyond that, I think there are many other underdeveloped sports markets across the world that could look at the college sports space after it's been developed here a little bit more and implement a lot of the same infrastructure. So I could see us moving into that long term for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the average person realizes we have probably the wealthiest amateur athletes in the world in the United States. It is incredible when you go on the international scene and you watch professional athletes that don't earn a fraction of what an amateur athlete works here.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I could see it for the future, but you got your hands full right now and expanding into this market. What type of legacy do you want NOCAP and you personally to leave in the world of sports and beyond?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, the industry we're in is still super new, and there's just so much opportunity, and there's going to be so many shifts that happen over the next 5 to 10 years in the college sports space that I think it creates opportunity to create a generational business, and that's what we want to build. I'm not here to do a quick flip with
Right.
NOCAP. I'm here to build something that is going to last long term, and I want to build the infrastructure on which this the rails on which this economy and NIL runs. So we're focused on that long-term vision and goal, and hoping to continue to create more and more value across athletes, universities, and brands long-term, and really, really focus on bringing scale and sustainability to this market, which I think it's lacked over the last 5 years since it launched.
Well, I, for one, am confident that you're going to do it. And, Nick, since I've gotten to know you over the last few years, you're a testament to the direction the world is going. A lot of people are afraid of AI taking their jobs right now. And if you take a look at the job market right now, the 20-year-olds of the world, the entry-level worker is the guy not getting the job right now, because where we are in AI is doing that job better than that entry-level guy. And a lot of people look at that as a threat, but they need to look at a guy like you, right? Because when you left school, you didn't look at the lack of a job market or AI as a threat. You looked at it as an opportunity to elevate yourself and do something that few people choose to do: innovate and create. And I think that AI is actually going to inspire us to evolve as human beings. And I think you're a perfect testament to that. So I think I think I'm going to do a nod to all the podcasters that I've been watching, and they all have these lightning rounds, right, where they ask questions for quick response. And so it doesn't have to be that quick, but let me ask you a few questions off the cuff, and we'll see what. Who's your favorite athlete, entrepreneur, investor of all time?
Yeah, great question. I think one of my favorite that I've followed over the last couple of years, at least since I started a business, is Kevin Durant. I think if you look at his track record of investing into different companies over the last few years, like the Robinhoods of the world, the Coinbases of the world, getting in early at these different businesses and seeing where they're going to go and where the world's going, has been really inspiring. I don't know how many companies he's invested in, but I feel like I see a new one every month or so. So just seeing an athlete like that get super involved and investing his dollars into where the world is moving towards is pretty inspiring.
It is. And he's a testament to what you were saying earlier about the recommendation to the 17-year-old, build your team around him. Look, Kevin Durant, I'm sure while he was focusing on his craft, he wasn't considering what the crypto market was going to be, but he surrounded himself with smart people who advised him well, whom they've built a trust. Dare I say they became more human, right? And he's being rewarded for it. And I don't think you have to be a pro athlete to have that same that same thing. I think the world's going to be awash with the innovators and will be rewarded for it. Talk to me about a deal that, I was going to say an NI deal that wish you'd broker, but maybe not that. How about this? How about a deal that you hope to close that you think will be transformational for NOCAP, and either the branding side or on the NOCAP revenue side?
Yeah, I think we have a couple of deals that are on the finish line right now with our university business that will generate 7 figures in recurring revenue for the university. And us being able to show that a singular deal can create 7 figures for a school is transformational.
Huge. Because
they've relied on small donations for forever. So if we're able to take an alumni-owned business and create a 7-figure revenue stream for that university through that one deal, it puts us in a different category that's never been done before.
And those guys, that community of business development in the universities, that is a very close-knit community, right? That will spread like wildfire, that if it works for one, it's going to work for all, because that, like many industries, the people, you go from small school to medium school to big school, and that's going to transform very quickly. Give me one prediction for sports in the 2030 range that most people would find crazy today.
Yeah, I don't know if it's super, super crazy. Maybe the timeline is crazy, but I think, I've been involved in these conversations a ton recently, so it's pretty relevant. But private capital moving into college sports is such an interesting topic for me, and figuring out how universities are going to operate once they take in private capital. You think about a Power 4 school taking in a couple $100 million potentially is one for the history books. It's never been done before. So
right.
Just watching how universities will change how they do things when they take in private capital, and how private equity affects these athletic departments and how they operate is going to be a really interesting thing to watch over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. Well, look, Nick, you've been a great guest. This was a great conversation. Hopefully, a lot of people got value out of it. Again, it's nocapsports.io, right?
Yes, sir.
And you could find you on LinkedIn. And if you're looking to invest alongside Nick and his team, he'd be willing to talk about it. If you're an athlete that's looking to get started in there, reach out to him and his people. And if you're a university as well, reach out to them, and he can make a compelling story for you on how you could potentially overcome donor fatigue. Any closing remarks before we close out? Anything that I missed in asking?
I don't think so, man. No, I appreciate you having me on.
Covered a lot of ground, and I see us. I don't know whether the Giants will continue to beat the Eagles for memory. I was excited that the Giants broke their 0-for-10 streak on Thursday night. I don't know if people, but as a devout New York Giant fan, people knew that. I had some trepidation about going to the Giant Stadium last night and watching 0-for-10 on Thursday night, but we finally broke the curse. And so, the Chinese have a saying, may you live in interesting times. And though sometimes I wake up and, man, I've had enough of interesting times, I take a little nap, eat a little pizza, and it goes away. And I thank God that we're in interesting times. And you're an interesting guy with an interesting concept, and you will be rewarded. And the university space is going to be a better place, and the athletes will be a better place for it. So thanks for everything that you're doing, and thanks for appearing on my show.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, Pete.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining me on the Pete Sacco Podcast. If today's conversation sparked insight or inspiration, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review. You can find more on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and LinkedIn. Until next time, keep evolving, keep leading, and find your bliss.